Okay, in this video, we'll be talking about, or just discovering how a force may change the motion of a body, right? So we'll be actually discussing this thing in more detail when we study Newton's first law, but let's actually get into it right away. So, for example, you can think of a ball that is staying at a rest position on a level surface at point A, and you want to, make it move all the way across to point B. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, that you can never make a ball move from point A to point B unless you apply a force to it. So there is no other way in order to make it move from point A to point B. You have to apply a force to make it move from point A to point B. But you can just at the same time argue that, well, if we don't have a level surface, if we have an inclined surface, right, and the ball is staying at point C here, and we want to make it to go to point D, we don't actually do anything. We don't apply any force, and it will itself roll down to point C to point D. So it happens all by itself. We don't apply any force. Well, you could argue that, but you just missed something pretty important here. The ball is already under an influence of a force, which is the force of gravity. Since you assume the surface to not be level or horizontal, you chose to set an inclined surface. So the force of gravity, which is acting downwards on the ball of course has some weight. It will cause the ball to move across or along the plane from point C to point D. So this is the weight of the ball, which is the force that is causing the ball to move from point C to point D. So in any case, you need to understand that it has to be a force that must cause the change in the state or the motion of the body, right? So in this case, where we had the horizontal surface, we want to move the ball from point A to point B, we have to apply any, amount of force, specific amount of force in order to make it move from point A to point B. So the ball must accelerate since it is at initially a rest position. So it must accelerate and achieve a certain amount of velocity and then, decelerate again and stop at point B, right? So once we want to make the ball move, we need to make it accelerate. So we have to apply a certain amount of force, but it will keep on going. We also want to stop the ball at point B, so then we need to apply an opposite force in order to make it decelerate, right? So we need to apply a negative force in order to make it stop. So we come to know that the force is not something that we always need in order to make an object move, but it is also something that we need to apply in order to make an object stop from moving, right? So this is the crux of this video, that you need to understand that force not only is needed to make an object move or accelerate, but also it is required to stop an object or decelerate, right? So whenever there's a change in the speed of the object, there has to be a force acting on it, either like in order to make it increase or make it decrease, right? So this is how force may change the motion of the body. So we'll be actually talking about it in more detail when we talk about the Newton's first law of motion. But this is, this is something that I wanted to initially, I wanted to create the curiosity of this concept in your mind, that force is not only required to make an object accelerate or move faster, but also to stop it or decelerate, right? So Newton's first law precisely states that an object that is at rest position will stay at rest position forever unless a net external force is applied to it, right? Or if an object is moving at a constant velocity, if you want to make it stop, then there has to be an external force acting in the opposite direction to make it stop, right? We'll be actually talking about that in more detail when we talk about Newton's first law of motion.